So good evening. I'm Courtney Bird, and I'm the vice chair, and I'm acting in Jamie Matthews, the chairman's absence. Welcome to the Wednesday, May 22nd meeting of the Falmouth Conservation Commission. Before I start, I want it noted that all members of the commission are present except for Jamie Matthews and Maury Harlow Hawks. And we also welcome our entire staff. And so this open meeting of the Falmouth Conservation Commission is being conducted via Zoom. It's also being broadcast on Channel 15, cable TV, and streamed online at www.fctv.org. Chapter 107 of the Acts of 2022 regarding COVID-19 allows for full public participation in this meeting. For those who want to view the meeting but do not want to participate, we suggest viewing on FCTV. Members of the public who want to make comments or ask questions during the meeting may join the meeting as Zoom attendees, which allows you to submit for the record written comments and questions via the chat function, and also to see and hear the meeting in real time. If you wish to speak at the meeting, let us know via the chat function, and at the appropriate time, the chair will call for public comment. When you are selected, you will be moved into the hearing as a participant. Your audio and video must be enabled. Be succinct and respectful of others. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes each. The link and instructions for joining the meeting are listed in the agenda posting and can be found on the Falmouth Conservation's website. FCTV will also be posting information on how to access the Zoom meeting during the broadcast. This meeting is being recorded, so please be aware that you are, as a panelist, can be seen and heard. And unless you've muted your microphone and or camera, that includes any open windows on your computer if you use screen share. So please act accordingly. And I should add, make sure that, things in the background like dogs, cats, TVs, your relatives and everything else can be heard. So please make sure that you're in a room where there's no stray noise. Now, the ground rules of the meeting. Before turning to the first item on the agenda, I want to review some basic ground rules for orderly conduct of our business and ensure accurate meeting minutes. As chair, I will introduce each speaker on the agenda. Please remember to unmute your microphone, and turn on your video so you can be both heard and seen, and 3, speak clearly. When done, please remute yourself. Please do not speak unless recognized by the chair. If you as a meeting attendee want to ask a question or make a comment, please use the chat function. After each presentation, the chair will ask staff members for questions or comments. The chair will then ask for commissioner comments or questions. After the presentation and staff and commissioner discussion, the chair will ask staff members to read any questions or comments typed onto Zoom and chat by members of the public. Following that, the chair will call for public comment. All votes for this remote meeting will be taken via roll call. I will call out the name of each member and ask you to repeat your last name before stating your voting. Now, with that, we'll start with the meeting and the first order of business. Do we have minutes tonight? I'm sorry. No minutes to approve. I don't see them on the agenda.
Nope, we don't have any minutes to approve, Courtney.
Okay, so then we'll move right to the RDAs. Oh, no, we're going to go to continuances first. So we have a request for continuance under a determination of applicability. Ellen Meany, 30 Marshview Road, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to repair the existing deck, platform, railings, and to reconstruct the stairs in accordance with the state building code. Let's see, who's this? Alyssa, you're the one that reports on these things.
Thank you. The applicant has requested a continuance until June 5th.
Do we have a motion and a second?
So moved, O'Brien. Second, and Driscoll.
Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Bird, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Maury isn't here. Ron,
Driscoll, aye.
Steve,
No.
did I miss anybody?
Nope.
No.
Good, all right. Second, is a request for a continuance number notice of intent. William Drynan Jr. and
Yeah.
you all right, Kevin?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, I'll start again. William Drynan Jr. and Lisa Kane, trustees, 17th Family Trust, 103 Childs River Road, East Falmouth, Mass, for permission to replace existing piles and decking.
Yes,
Alyssa,
No, that was me, Courtney. The
all right,
applicant is requesting a continuance until July 31st.
okay,
So moved.
have a second?
Second, O'Brien.
Yeah, it's been, all right, so we have a second and a third by a dog. If somebody could take care of the dog. Anyway, we have a motion and a second. So I'll call for the vote. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Court is aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Ron,
Driscoll, aye.
Steve.
Aye.
So we're continued. I'm sorry, did we set a date on?
7:30.
That's
All right.
7:31, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Second of all right, the next one is Sarah Turano Flores, Nutter, McClellan and Fish LLP, 24 Willis Lane, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to reconstruct an existing licensed dock and remove a timber wave break.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, they are requesting a continuance until July 10th.
July
So
10th.
moved, Patton.
Gladfelter, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this to July 10. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Court is aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
I'm sorry, Ron
Driscoll, aye.
and Steve.
Patton, aye.
Okay, it's been continued. Next, we have a continuance request for Nordo Nisi III and Jane Nisi, 117 Little Neck Bars Road, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to reconstruct a garage, install a pool with patios, construct a deck, a rinse station, and install mitigation plantings. Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting a continuance until June 12th.
June 12th. Okay, do we have a motion and a
So
second?
moved, Patton.
Have a second?
Or second,
Second,
Gladfelter.
O'Brien.
Okay, we have a motion and several seconds on that. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Court is aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Ron,
Driscoll, aye.
Steve,
Patton, aye.
motion carried. Okay, next is a request for a determination of applicability. Under a request for a determination of applicability or an RDA, the applicant is asking the Conservation Commission to decide if the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act and or the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw apply to the proposed project. A negative determination in that the provision of the act or bylaw does not apply, therefore can proceed, is a positive finding. Determination that provisions of the act or bylaw do apply, and therefore the applicant will have to submit a notice of intent if she wants to go forward. And that's a positive. So in simplest terms, a no means yes. All right. So first request for determination of applicability. Sarah Chabalt, 232 Edgewater Drive East, East Falmouth, Mass, for permission to construct an addition and screen porch and remove 2 areas of concrete and install a drip strip.
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
So moved, Patton.
We have a second.
Gladfelter, second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Bird, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Ron,
Driscoll, aye.
Steve,
Patton, aye.
motion carried. Staff's accepted. Staff's recommendation has been accepted. Next, Darrell Morley, 43 Turner Road, East Falmouth, Mass, for permission to remove an unpermitted deck expansion, reconstruct the remaining deck, and install a fence. Alyssa?
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
So moved, Patton.
Gladfelter, second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept staff's recommendation. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Bird, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Ron,
Driscoll, aye.
Steve,
Patton, aye.
moved, motion is carried to accept staff recommendation. Next, Mary Good, 21 Rock Street, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to repair an existing seawall. Alyssa?
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Gladfelter, so moved.
Patton, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Bird, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Ron,
Driscoll, aye.
Steve,
Patton, aye.
motion carried, staff accepted. Okay, next, Thomas S. Crane, 2000 Revocable Trust, 35 Juniper Point Road, Woods Hole, Mass, for permission to conduct follow-up maintenance in accordance with Mass DEP number 25-4397 and 254638. Minor invasive species removal by hand and routine maintenance of existing vegetation. Alyssa?
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Patton, so moved. Driscoll, second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept staff recommendation. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for vote. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Bird, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Ron?
Driscoll, aye.
And Steve?
Patton, aye.
Motion carried. All right, now, we have continued requests for a determination of applicability. 63 Santuit LLC, 63 Santuit Road, North Falmouth, Mass. Permission to permission to lift an existing house in order to raise the height of the foundation. Alyssa?
The applicant has requested a continuance until June 5th.
Okay, is there a reason? That's the second we're continuing.
Yes, we did receive their plan. There's slightly too much mitigation required to be permitted under an RDA, so they have to reconstruct a little bit, but it should go through for the 5th.
Okay, so do we have a motion to continue?
Patton, so moved.
And a second?
Second, Driscoll.
Second.
Okay, and this is until June 6th?
Fifth.
Fifth.
June 5th, I'm sorry. Okay, all those in favor of, I'm sorry, we have a motion and a second on this, am I correct?
Yes.
Okay, so the motion is to continue this to the 5th. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Bird, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Ron,
Driscoll, aye.
Steve,
Patton, aye.
motion carried. Okay, now the next one is continued, Ellen Meany. So we'll move on to hearings for under notice of intent. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authorities of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision of the commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. So the first one, first request for a hearing has actually been continued. So we'll go on to Lee Carosi Dunn, Lee Carosi Dunn Family Trust, 224 County Road, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to construct additions, remove an existing deck and patio, reconfigure the driveway, install a new patio, and install mitigation plantings. So, who is,
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have promoted Tim Santos up as a panelist, as well as Tom Lee from Tom Lee Studio. He is the landscape designer.
okay,
Anybody else on your project team, Tim?
No, that's good for now. We're good.
Okay,
okay, so Tom and, okay, good. You want to
Tim
make sure you
Santos
guys
from
are
Merrill.
unmuted? All right, you're on deck, my friend. Go
Thank
ahead.
you. Good evening. For the record, Tim Santos from Merrill Engineers and Land Surveyors representing the applicant. Also with me is Tom Lee, the landscape architect. With your permission, I will share my screen. Can everybody see that?
Yes, Tim.
The property is located at 224 County Road. It's on the western side of County Road as you head down towards the Megansett Harbor Yacht Club. It's currently developed on an existing single-family home, covered porch, bluestone patio, and if you've been to the site, there's this old concrete driveway with a drive-under garage. The resource area is on or within 100 feet of the property. We have Megansett Harbor, coastal beach to the rear, coastal dune, and the entire property is located in land subject to coastal storm flowage. Some of you might be familiar with the property as an RDA was filed last year for a septic upgrade. A denitrification system has been installed on the property. So we are here tonight. This is our plot plan that we filed for the notice of intent. What we're looking to do is some renovations to the existing home, as well as the removal of some of the existing hardscape and propose some new hardscape. So as far as the existing home goes, there's a deck off the rear that we're looking to remove. To the, I believe it's to the south side of the house. This area right now is currently, there's an existing patio. We're going to remove it and we're going to infill this area with a covered porch. If you're kind of following my little hand here. On the northern side of the house, there's the wraparound covered porch. We are proposing to reconstruct that area with additions to the home. There's 1, 2, 3 here. That will be actual habitable space to the home. This area of the existing covered porch will be reconstructed as a new covered porch and entrance into the home. And this area here will be a screened porch. All the roof runoff will be diverted to dry wells as shown on the plan. We're proposing on the southern side of the house to remove the concrete driveway and access walls, fill this area in, and construct a new proposed dry lay patio. That'll kind of wrap up the side from the western to the eastern side of the house on the south side. And then up in this southeast corner of the property will be a new gravel driveway with some stone edging. And we're also proposing a little drop-off area in front of the house as well, gravel with some stone edging. We supplied redevelopment mitigation calculations within the notice, and it's also shown on the plan. So the difference, what currently exists to what's proposed in the A will be a reduction of 52 square feet, and what currently exists and what's proposed in the B will be an addition of 253 square feet. So that net alteration is 201. Increase at a 2-to-1 is 402 square feet. To the rear of the property or the western side adjacent to the dune, I'm showing 380 square feet that we are showing as what we're showing as the actual location of where the proposed mitigation plantings would go. I will show the landscape plan soon, but the entire property is proposed to be landscaped. The lawn will be removed. There'll be shrubs, ground cover, grass is planted, and some nice sand paths that'll lead out towards the beach. So that's kind of our site plan. Oh, there are also trees proposed as well in accordance to meet the redevelopment regulations. I did receive a staff report The main comments were to replace the sweet fern. We've actually submitted a revised plan to the board this afternoon, removing the sweet fern altogether, as well as showing the areas of the mitigation plantings on the actual landscape plan. So I'll bring that up quickly. This was submitted to the board. This is the original plan did not have this little red cloud area to show you on this plan to mimic what our plan shows. These areas to the west of the house along the coastal dune are the areas of the mitigation plantings. It's a mixture of shrubs, ground cover, and grasses, all native that would be associated with a coastal dune environment. We'd have this area, that's the light green and green, and I can let Tom talk more about it, but that's basically the mixture, all the native shrubs and grasses as well. We have along the southern side of the house, this is where our new dry lay patio would be, gravel parking, as well as some parking and a turnoff in the front. I'll stop sharing, turn it over to Tom if he wants to add anything more as far as the plans go for the landscape side of it. I'll talk a little bit about the dry lay patio, and then we'd be more than happy to answer questions.
Okay.
Did I have control, Tim, or?
Yeah, you should be able to share that little green button in the bottom. Or I can bring it back up for you,
Yeah.
whatever. I'll bring it back up.
So for the record, Tom Lee, and good evening to all, landscape architect. As Tim already mentioned, this is a dry laid stone paving. I'll just add that the what we do now with the base is using a 3/4 inch crushed stone that is very porous, and because these are irregular pavers, irregular edges, that they will have a wide joint of about 1 inch, so water flows readily through it. And then just a little bit more on the planting. The light green would be either a bearberry or dune American beach grass. And then the darker greens are shrub masses. And we'd like to propose, by removing the sweet ferns, we can just use the other 3 species we have to replace that, if that's okay. Other than that, we're trying to embed this project in native planting. So beyond the mitigation, it spreads throughout the site. All the plantings would be native. I think that's all I have to add.
All right, thank you very much for your presentation. So Jen, do you want to weigh in?
Yeah, Tom, first of all, Tim, how much fill are you bringing in?
I
It
believe
really wasn't clear to us on your plan until you provided the architecturals, and we realized what you were doing with how that was going to be done. So do you know how much fill you're bringing in?
Yeah, but I believe it's around 75 cubic yards.
Okay, thank you. And Tom,
Mhm.
usually the shrub plantings go closest to the resource areas. You're kind of more incorporating the required mitigation surrounded by the ground cover in the little kind of pockets, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Beyond the mitigation, we just don't want sweet fern to be used in the mitigation, but if you wanted to use sweet fern throughout the rest of your planting scheme, you're more than welcome to. We just don't want it counted towards that mitigation.
Okay, I see.
Okay.
Yep.
So just to make that clear, because it looks like you're going to be doing a lot more planting that's not the required mitigation.
It would be great to have that option, that a little more diversity. Yep.
That's
Great.
fine.
And then we don't have a problem with the condition of that, Jen, either.
Okay. Perfect.
As far as the mitigation plantings go.
Yeah, the mitigation area. Yeah. And then Tim, can you revise your plan to match, unless the board will allow these pockets? Like I said, the mitigation should kind of look more like your plan does, kind of up against that kind of duney area. So the board can decide what they want to do with that. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Jen. Alyssa, do you have anything to add?
Nothing to add at this time. Thank you.
Okay, we'll take comments from the board. Betsy?
No questions or comments. Thanks to Tim and Tom. That was a nice, clear presentation.
Kevin?
Same comment. Thank you.
And Ron, how about you?
No, I'm all set, thank you. No questions or comments.
Steve?
Yeah, I just had the approximate way is the entrance now.
That's always been the entrance.
Right.
So that's
But
how
you're
they've always.
moving it.
Yeah,
closer.
yeah, they're just not going to be going all the way down it. They'll just be accessing the parking further up. That's correct.
And whatever the garage was used for, it'll.
The garage doors are gonna be removed, and then
Right.
that'll be infilled and filled against.
Okay. Thank you. That's all.
Okay, and I have no comments. Well presented. Are there any comments in the chat room or in the general public or any of that?
Nothing in the public chat, Mr. Chairman, and I don't see anybody's hand raised at this time.
So I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Second.
Second.
Oh, we have a motion, a second to close the hearing and take it under advisement. Is there any further discussion?
No, thank
Hearing
you.
none, I'll call for the vote. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Bird, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
And Ron?
Driscoll, aye.
Steve?
Pat and I.
Motion carried. This hearing is closed. Next.
Thank you for your
is-
time. Have a great long weekend.
Bye, Tim.
Courtney, you're doing a great job. Don't let anybody give you a hard time tonight.
Don't encourage him, Tim.
Thank you. Take care, everybody.
Tom, it was
Thanks,
nice
Tim.
to see you
No,
again.
I've had lots of practice listening. And I once did this years ago.
I know. I remember. Take care. Good to
All
see
right.
you.
Have a
Going on
nice
to the
long
next
weekend, Tim.
You too. Good night.
Beautiful.
Going on to the
property.
next hearing. Falmouth Yacht Club, Inc., 0 Clinton Avenue, map parcel 46B02020000H, Falmouth, Mass., for permission to enlarge the stone revetment and remove unpermitted trap rock. And Jen, do you have any?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So this is a note. Raul, I'm assuming you're presenting this since you're the only one from Cape and Islands here. Okay. So,
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, this is a notice of intent that was filed to address a later agenda item under enforcement orders.
Correct.
So I have promoted Raul Lizardi from Cape and Islands Engineering to present this notice.
Rule, take it away.
Thank you. Jen, if you could also find in the public, if you see a Stephen Kerr, Kohr, from the Falmouth
Yep.
Yacht Club.
Yep. Mr. Chairman, I have also promoted Stephen Kerr. I'm assuming Falmouth Yacht Club,
Right.
who will also be addressing the board.
Okay.
All right.
Stephen should turn on his microphone and his camera.
There we go.
All right.
Good evening. For the record, Raul Lizardi from Cape and Islands Engineering. And as mentioned, Stephen Kerr, who is the manager for the Falmouth Yacht Club, also joining us for this meeting. As mentioned, this project is a notice of intent as a follow-up to an enforcement order for what happened at the property. If I could share my screen. So this notice of intent, of course, is located at 0 Clinton Ave. 0 Clinton Ave is a property across Clinton Ave from the Falmouth Yacht Club. It's at the end of, or at the bend of Grand Avenue when it reaches the shorelines of the Vineyard Sound. This property has been before this board for other projects. Most recently is for beach nourishment. The site is just a vacant property, is all used as a beach. There is a development in the form of a revetment. That's what exists all along the northeastern part of the property. The revetment continues on into the layout of Grand Avenue. So what has happened at this location over the winter is after a storm, the entire shoulder of Clinton Ave got wiped out. The sand were removed, and the erosion caused the existing beach to be sort of flat. But then as it approaches Clinton Ave, there was a sudden 2 to 3 feet cut, vertical cut at this location. That resulted in exposing the bedding sub-base for Clinton Ave. It also exposes some of the power line conduits that feed the hotel at the background here in this picture. What we're proposing to do is to improve on the existing revetment. If I go back to some of the pictures to better illustrate what's happened. So there's a revetment that the town property ends at this location more or less, kind of lined up with the existing pole and the stop sign. The existing revetment by the town has this shape that is angled up, and then there's a flat kind of cap area for the revetment. Once it transitions over to the property of the Falmouth Yacht Club, it does not follow that same profile. It just has the stones. There is some filter fabric for portion of the revetment, but not all of it. But it doesn't have the additional protection for a certain area after the peak of the revetment. Something else to notice, the town revetment elevation is roughly elevation 8. The revetment on the Yacht Club property slopes from elevation 8 all the way down to elevation 5. The shoulders on Clinton Ave go from roughly elevation 6 to elevation 9 around the stop sign. So what we're proposing to do is to keep the existing revetment that's at this location, remove the existing trap rock that was placed there temporarily to protect the site from erosion. But then after the existing revetment, we propose to add some additional stones to kind of mimic what happens on a town revetment, which is that this upper 6 or 8 foot section is sort of like a cap at a higher elevation. The intent is to keep these stones roughly 1.5 feet higher than the shoulder, and then restore the shoulder. The existing trap rock, if I use one of the pictures that staff took from the property, the existing trap rock, instead of just removing it and tossing it away, we're proposing to repurpose it as the bedding stone for the new stones. So what we'll do, remove all this trap rock, install the new 3 levels of stones on top of what's there, roughly ending up about 1.5 feet higher than the shoulder on Clinton Ave. We did receive some comments from DEP. One of the comments referred to section 310 CMR 1027.3. 310 CMR 1027 is coastal beach. And the comment says that it appears that the project does not meet that performance standard of 310 CMR 1027.3. Now that standard says that we cannot change the coastal beach or do any project on the coastal beach that increases erosion, decreases the volume, or changes the form of the beach. The beach in the definition of the Wetland Protection Act says that it starts at mean low water and it ends at a human-made structure. So the beach in this location, it is our understanding that it ends at the water side of the existing revetment. So the proposed stones that we're placing on the top side of the revetment is not considered a beach. We understand that in the past, this area was developing a dune. So that dune was wiped out this winter when the storm hit the area and eroded the dune away. We hope that this dune can redevelop again and the landform takes shape, because the dune does assist with protecting the upland side of the property. But we believe that this particular standard does not apply, since the proposed revetment is on the landward side of the existing revetment, not on the beach. We do plan to use the beach for access and for construction, so there will be some temporary use of the beach, but that has been allowed before, most recently for the approved nourishment of the beach. In terms of staff comments, we did receive some staff comments. One of the comments mentioned there was a stake placed on the site for viewing purposes, and it was approximately some 7 feet away from the end of the revetment. That is not the intent. That stake seems to be a blown stake. The existing revetment will be the same. We're just adding on the upland side of it. We're not extending on the beach side of it or lateral towards the beach. Another comment was mentioned about use of the existing parking lots for staging or for storing of the material. One of the things that I do want to say is we're not going to propose to use the town parking lots for bringing in some of the stones or removing the trap rock and placing it temporarily on town property. But the yacht club does have parking that could be used for some of this work. When I've seen and I've inspected some of the installations for revetment, I have seen that the contractors do take a piece of stone and they try to fit it into place, but sometimes they take that same stone, temporarily place it on the beach, take another stone that will work better for that particular location, and then go back to the one that they temporarily placed on the beach. So I expect something like that might happen here, where they try to fit stones on top of the stones, and these are natural features and they're not perfectly connecting with each other. So some of the stones may not fit well. So some of the stones may be moved around and may temporarily be placed on the beach, but it's not that they're going to be left on the beach. But we do understand that we cannot use the town road or the town parking for any of the work or any of the staging of the project. Right now, that's the project that we have presented. And if there's any questions, we'll be happy to answer.
Thank you, Raul. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. This area used to actually be, as Raul said, a little dune. It was really severely damaged in a winter storm. I have talked to Cape and Islands Engineering about this, about maybe just recreating the dune. And the energy there is just, I just think this might be actually a better option, is to make that stone kind of lip, for better, lack of a better term. The dune will, if a dune wants to recreate itself on the top of that, it will. Raul, are you putting the fence back up?
The plan is to restore the fence, which will hopefully also help in developing that landform for the dunes.
Yes. And what about the trap rock that was on the abutting property that's not under the control of the yacht club? It actually is not even under the control of the town. There's a little tiny private parcel. Are you going to be removing the trap rock from that? Because you show it, but then on the top where you have the plan detail, you show leaving it there.
So yes, I failed to touch on that topic. It was one of the comments from staff. The applicant will remove the entire spill of the trap rock, including the spill that's over the property line.
Okay. And when we said using the parking lot for stockpiling, we meant the yacht club's parking lot, not the town's parking lot. I do not want materials stockpiled on that beach, left overnight on that beach. I understand the placement of the stones and how they have to work, but in the notice of intent, you said you were using the beach as the stockpiling area.
Yeah, that was the intent. But then after the staff comment, we did reach out to Falmouth Yacht Club, and they agreed they can use the parking. One thing to make sure that there's two different parkings. There's one that's shells, one that's pavement. We do not want to use the pavement for bringing in those 1-ton stones because it will damage the pavement. But we can definitely use the pavement for the trap rock, temporary movement of the trap rock, and we can use the shell parking for the stones.
That's fine. I just don't want it stockpiled on the beach. Okay, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Jen. Alyssa, do you have anything to add?
No comments. Thank you.
Okay, commission comments. Kevin,
No comments, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Ron,
Is this all the work gonna be done from the land up on the street as opposed to in the water or down on the beach?
So I believe some of the work can be done from the shoulder, but I believe some access will probably reach the beach. Once they get to the site, the corner may be done from the beach.
you happy?
Yep.
Okay, Steve, you have anything?
Great. That was a good question. You almost have to, because you can't go on any city property. You really don't have another solution. I think, this is creative. Right? You saved your property in the winter. Probably should have checked in, but now this solution is excellent. So thank you.
So you're all set, Steve?
I'm all set, Mr.
Betsy.
Chairman.
No questions or comments. Thanks, Raul, Steve.
No, and the only question I have is when are you proposing to do this, assuming we pass it?
So at the moment, there is no contractor in hand because we didn't know how this meeting was going to go. But once this order is issued, they will start going out for bids to find out who can get here and do the work.
Raul, please make sure the yacht club understands that we are going to probably, this is an enforcement order, so we are probably going to say it has to be done by a date certain. All this trap rock was supposed to be removed. It kind of forced our hand, allowing it to stay. So I don't care if it's summer and the parking lot's going to be taken up. This project needs to be done almost immediately. And the enforcement order is going to remain open until this project is completed. Okay.
Understood.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other comments by the members of the commission? Do we have any public comments? Or anything in the chat?
There's nothing in the public chat, and there doesn't appear to be any hand raised for public comments, Mr. Chairman.
Make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to close the hearing and take it under advisement. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Bird, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Ron?
Driscoll, aye.
And Steve?
Pat and I.
Motion carried. This hearing is closed. Thank you very much, Raul.
Thank you.
Raul. Thank you.
Good weekend, everyone.
Thank you.
Good
Moving
weekend,
on.
Raul, Steve.
Okay, moving on. The next hearing has been continued. That's
Steve,
Drinan
right.
and Kane. And so we'll move to Michael Taniosos, 86 Edgewater Drive East Falmouth, Mass. For after the fact permission to replace an existing shed and install additional landscape, and permission to install the associated mitigation plantings. And who do we have to present?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I am currently promoting Mike Borselli of Falmouth Engineering up to present his project.
Hello.
Okay, you're on, Michael.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the commission, for the record, Michael Borselli, I represent the applicant, Michael Tanianos. Mr. Chairman, with your permission, I'd like to share my screen. I will take that as a yes. Mr. Tanianos owns the property at 86 Edgewater Drive East. You may remember the property. You recently issued an order of conditions allowing for the reconstruction of an existing licensed dock. The property has water frontage on Childs River. The wetland resources include land under the ocean, land containing shellfish. There's a salt marsh. There's a lower profile non-eroding coastal bank, and there's land subject to coastal storm flowage. During the review of the dock, your staff discovered that Mr. Tanianos had reconstructed a shed in also surrounding hardscapes that had increased impervious surfaces, and he had done that without permission. We talked about it at the hearing, and there was a condition placed on the dock that this must be tended to before a certificate of compliance would be issued for the dock. So we filed a separate notice of intent. We calculated the increase in impervious surfaces. The shed and hardscape are located in the outer buffer zone B of a coastal bank. So the mitigation requirement is 2 to 1. We determined that there was a net increase from what had existed with shed and no hardscape from 70 square feet to 410 square feet. So there was an increase of 340 square feet. A factor of 2 means 680 square feet of mitigation planting. We worked with staff. The logical place to put it was on the coastal bank, which is basically a lawn area down to a salt marsh. Mr. Tanianos retained the services of Crawford Land Management. Crawford Land Management took our plan and added specifications for the plant materials that were appropriate, including some that are very near to and adjacent to the salt marsh, and then some that, so those like wetter feet, and then as the grade rises up slightly, the other plant material is also proposed and spec'd on the Crawford Land Management plan. There's a schedule of the planting material on the Crawford Land Management plan. So hopefully this satisfies the requirements that should have been proposed originally, but were not proposed. So this will mitigate for the increases in impervious surfaces. And that sums it up. I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you, Mike. Jen, do you have some comments?
The only comment I have is, Mike, it'll probably have to be planted by a date certain.
Okay.
Okay, that's it.
Do you have a date certain in mind to recommend, Jen?
You know, by the end of the summer, fall,
Okay.
something like that. It's not going to be like 3 years from now. It'll be by the end of 2024.
Yeah, what Mr. Tanianos, if Mr. Tanianos gets his Chapter 91 license, he intends to immediately build the access point that would be within the mitigation area and build the dock, and then immediately, assuming the weather isn't like severe drought conditions, he would plant the plants that when appropriate and maintain them. So he wants to do it as soon as possible. He wants everything fixed as soon as possible.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Alyssa, do you have anything to add?
Not at this time. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move then to commissioner comments. Ron, we'll lead off with you.
All right, thank you. I have no comments. Thanks.
Okay, Steve?
I have no comments, Mr. Chairman.
And let's see, Betsy?
I also have no comments or questions.
Yeah, and I don't have any. I think we've covered everything. Kevin, did I get you?
No, but that's okay. I don't have any comments. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, it's unanimous. Do we have anything in the chat room, or any public comment, Jen?
No public comment, Mr. Chairman, and no hand raised.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Do we have a second?
Patton second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Bird, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Ron?
Briscoe, aye.
And Steve?
Patton, aye.
Motion carried. This hearing is closed. We'll move on to the next one.
Good night, Mike.
Good night.
Thank you, Mike.
I was having a flashback to the early 2000s with Commissioner Byrd as chairman.
Yeah, I know. Well, it's like, well, I won't get into any other things. Okay. Moving
Night,
along,
Mike.
we
Night,
have,
Mike.
thank you, Mike. Moving along, we have 3 Tonsett Road Realty Trust. 3 Tonsett Road, Falmouth, Mass, for permission to install a pool with patio and associated mitigation plantings. And who do we have to present?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have promoted Jeff Hassett from Morse Engineering and Angela Tanner from Crawford Land Management to present this project. I'm assuming Angela is part of this project team. Jeff?
Yes, yes.
Okay, perfect.
And if Dylan's available, if you could promote him,
Sure.
and Paul Gallagher.
Okay, big project team tonight.
Yeah, we're all
Is
there.
Dylan, and I know Paul is with Morse Engineering.
Yeah, Paul's actually the builder.
Oh, okay, sorry.
All right, well, with that cast of thousands, we'll move into the presentation. Who's
All
doing
right. So thank you. My name is Jeff Hassett. I'm a civil engineer with Morse Engineering. Paul Gallagher is here, the builder, as well as Dylan Lance and Angela Tanner, who are the landscape designers. So I will share my screen. Oops. Okay, so this property is 3 Tonsett Road. It probably looks familiar. We did file a notice of intent back in January for a septic repair. We're back here this evening with an NOI for a pool project. This property is about 12,000 square feet. It's developed with a single family home centrally located. It has frontage on Cotuit Road as well as Tonsett Road. And on the opposite side of Tonsett Road is the coastal beach. And along the roadway is a man-made coastal bank, which we're showing a 50-foot Zone A buffer to, as well as the 100-foot Zone B buffer. And the entire property is within a, well, it's mapped as land subject to coastal soil flowage, being a FEMA VE elevation 19 zone. So the project is in the northeast corner of the property. In this corner is to install a pool. It's relatively small. It's 10 by 21, an 8 by 8 hot tub, a patio around the pool. The equipment will go alongside the garage, and stepping stones here, and then a fence around the pool. The HVAC units are currently here, and they'll be relocated around next to the pool equipment side of the garage. And there will also be a 500-gallon propane tank installed within the lawn here. So the reason I'm color coding this plan is primarily for zoning purposes. So in order to comply with the zoning structure coverage, the deck has to be reconfigured and ultimately made smaller. So the portion that is shown in red is going to be removed, which already had to be removed from a previous order of conditions. And then the 2 areas in magenta will also be removed. And then the deck is being extended in these very small areas shown in green. To clarify, the steps are not going to be part of the decking. They're going to be hardscape construction of granite. And therefore, they count towards impervious coverage, but not towards structure coverage. And we've reviewed that with the building inspector. So for mitigation for this property, we do have work within the Zone B. We have the patio, the hot tub, the pool, and the steps. So that area is 355 square feet. Therefore, a 2-to-1 ratio of 710 square feet is required for mitigation. We're providing just a little bit more than that at 721 square feet. And we did submit a mitigation plan. To summarize that, they'll be in those areas, and the mitigation is along here, as well as here. This small triangle in that triangular area are areas that that were previously permitted to be mitigation. So at the same time they're doing all the mitigation for this, they'll fill in those areas and complete that. So in those areas, yeah, so those areas will be planted with shrubs and a seed mix. So to address some of the staff comments, yes, there is intended to be a second floor over the garage, but it will not have to alter the ground. The foundation will be, the existing foundation will be suitable for that, and that information will be submitted to the building inspector. The deck size I spoke to will be reduced with hardscape steps. There are 2 cedar trees in here. Both of them are proposed to be removed. We called out one, but really it's a cluster of 2 tightly together, and they will be replanted in this area here, in the mitigation area, or along the property line. The hot tub will be set flush to the ground. It won't be sitting on top. And the trees along the property line will be cedars. And there is a photograph of some plywood in an area in this. It must be right here in this corner, which will be removed immediately if it hasn't already been removed. So with that, I will pass it back for any questions. Thank you.
Okay, Jen, or is there anybody else on your team that needs to comment at this point?
Angela or Dylan, do you have anything to add?
I just had one clarification. I think the staff had asked about 2 cedars that were supposed to be planted previously that were not planted, and those should have been on our plan along with the other mitigation plantings that we added that are not there currently. So that area sort of right in the north where the existing mitigation is where the 2 trees are supposed to be planted. Yeah, up in there, there's supposed to be 2. Those I think were the ones that you were talking about, Jeff. Okay. Possibly. Those need to be planted. They should have been on our plan, so we can add those back in.
Okay. Anybody else on there want to comment before I turn it over to Jen? Okay, Jen, you have any comments on this?
Mr. Hassett, can you stop sharing your screen? I may have you do it before again, but please stop sharing it for now. Thank you.
All right, good.
Garage addition?
Unknown caller.
Excuse me. Garage addition? Why was that not put on the plan, mentioned in the narrative, and provided architectural, since this isn't a velocity zone? The only reason we put it on our staff report is because your client had previously submitted a building permit without any proper permits for that, for you to casually just mention, yeah, we're going to put a 2nd story addition on this. We have certain requirements for 2nd story additions. We need a structural engineer to look at it, as well as architectural, since it's in a V zone.
Okay, so I actually, to be honest, was not aware of that addition until I read your staff memo and reached out to my client today. I wasn't aware that they were putting a 2nd floor. The miscommunication on that is that it was our interpretation that since it wasn't disturbing the ground, that it wouldn't be excavating for a new foundation. It's going up above that. It didn't need an NOI filing, but if it does, then we certainly would like to provide that information you're looking for and make it part of the application.
Absolutely, we can absolutely approve it as part of this application, but we do need to see structural to make sure that that garage foundation can support the weight of a 2nd floor. Too many times we have been called out into the field and all of a sudden excavation needs to take place because they haven't properly evaluated the foundation. So that one needs to be done. And 2, again, the architecturals, because you're increasing the square footage, you're adding an addition in the V zone, and you're pretty much up against your 200 square foot addition. So we're going to need to evaluate that, because it may or may not be allowed, considering all the building that's already gone on this property. We, in our V zone regulations, they restrict it. The board restricts it to 200 square feet additions, and that includes decks, additions, anything in the V zone. It's not just footprint. It's overall space. To the mitigation.
Can I ask a question on that? What if What if the addition is higher than elevation 19? Like say so the
That the
garage.
board will have to decide what they've done because the board's
Okay.
restricted additions above the flood zone, because we just look at it as a bird's eye view. We don't consider anything above or not. The mitigation was really difficult to confirm. So Angela, if your team can itemize out the mitigation, because we are coming up with much different mitigation numbers. With all
Okay.
the moving and the adding, so you're not counting the removal of the deck that was required under 2 previous orders that your client still has not removed.
No, we're not double dipping on that.
Okay, well, we need to see that itemized out. And the building department and zoning may not consider your stone steps as part of coverage, but this board looks at things a bit differently than building and zoning. So the board will have to decide if this, excuse me, I just need to grab it. If this 90 square feet hardscape will be counted as part of that addition in the V zone. At what elevation are those stone steps? I mean, they look like they pretty much, what elevation is the deck versus the ground?
The decking is at about elevation 19 and the ground is about 13 to 14.
So that those steps are going to be about 6 feet high?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. That's something the board will need to consider because that's still a massive amount of stonework in a visa. And I think that's it. It was just really difficult for us to kind of see where the mitigation was landing. So again, if you could itemize that for us, that would be great. We'll need the structural engineer looking at the garage foundation. We'll need the architecturals for the second floor, and then the board will determine, you know, all that increase structure additions and everything else in a visa.
Okay.
Angela, you're going to put those 2 trees on your plan?
Correct.
Okay. And you're removing some native Rosa rugosa to put skinny cedars?
Rosa rugosa is not native.
I understand that, but it's everywhere and it's native when people want it to be native and not native when people don't want it to be native. So again, are we removing the Rosa rugosa to put the skinny cedars?
Yes, I would
okay.
consider cedar a better replacement for the Rosa rugosa.
Even the cedars that you're proposing, the skinny little column ones?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's possible that the ones where the Rosa rugosa are going don't have to be the skinny ones because they're not infringing on the pool area. It's just where the pool is that we don't want to have giant cedars overtaking the pool. So that area that's shown to the water side of the existing cedars, I think could have regular cedars there.
And regular, we're talking about Eastern red
Like
cedars?
Yeah, a straight species as opposed to a cultivar that stays narrower.
A cultivar that isn't native.
Yes. So I think we can put, I think those trees that are behind that existing stone wall could be straight species.
The native variety
Yes.
of our Eastern red cedar?
Yes.
And then we'll switch one non-native for another pretty much cultivar. Okay. Just having fun with you, Angela. Because it does look like it's a lot of habitat over there, and I get it. We've had the conversations
Yeah.
about Rosa rugosa. It's a big wave. It ebbs and flows about whether the board allows it or not. So, but it's everywhere. So, I think that's all I have right now. Again, it was just difficult to look at that mitigation, so we just need some clarity on that. That's all.
Okay.
And Jeff, thank you for reaching out to your client about the garage. It's something we caught, something that was in, the back of the agent's mind, and we just kind of put it out there because we didn't want to see a building permit again once we issued this order, and then your client thinking that, that it was approved in this order. So we want to make sure we're very clear what we're approving, so she knows what she can construct.
Sure, I appreciate that. And we want to
Okay,
get everything
thank
in
you
this
so
filing
much.
so we don't have to come back another time.
Yeah.
Alyssa, let me get your comments, and then before we proceed, I want to get the board's feeling. Go ahead, Alyssa.
Thank you. I just have one follow-up. Should the board permit the 90 square feet of stairs in their currently proposed location? There is some mitigation located closer than 10 feet to that staircase. We usually try to have a 10-foot offset just for clearance. So if that could get zhuzhed around a little bit, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay.
All set,
Thanks,
board.
Alyssa. So my feeling about this hearing is there's lots of stuff that needs clarification and more work.
Yes.
That, in my mind, begs a continuance. Hold on. That, in my mind, begs a continuance, and then we hear the whole thing. So the question now is, what is the board's pleasure? Do we want to hear their entire presentation and then continue it? Or should we just stop at this point, have them do the work that's needed, and then come back and give us a complete presentation? Does anybody want to comment on that?
Courtney, I'll comment. I think they have given you their presentation. I think they know they have to come back. So I think in this instance, it would be helpful for the project team to hear from the board, to hear any questions or concerns the board has, so that when they do come back, they can address all concerns, and then they're just not, hit again with more questions and comments. So I think it would help move the project along if the board could comment, so that they know exactly what they need to accomplish for the next hearing.
Okay, so unless I hear any objection, we'll continue with the hearing. Okay, so commissioner comments. I think we'll start with you, Ron.
Yeah, I was just go about all the ins and outs of that mitigation planning and the zoning board and the removal of the deck and adding the stairs. That was really confusing. I don't know how anyone figured out exactly what the mitigation square footage should be. It was, I don't know, it's three or four different plans all rolled into one. I had no idea what I was looking at. So that's only my comment.
Okay, Ron, thank you. Steve, do you have anything?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It was an extremely tight site based on what we're used to seeing, although it's, anyway. I was curious how they were going to fit everything in with the mitigation and whether, the lot coverage was substantial, I thought, but it looks like they corrected or reduced all those things. I'm still not clear about which deck was supposed to be removed, to be honest with you. So yeah, I think we need to discuss this.
Okay.
Where I understand it better. Excuse me for that.
Okay, Steve.
That's it.
Yep. Kevin.
Well, suffice it to say, I couldn't vote to approve this, given the amount of questions that have come up in this discussion. So I'm assuming this will wind up in a continuance, and some of these at least will be addressed. Thank you.
Okay. Betsy?
Yeah, I don't have any comment on size of decks, where the mitigation is, etc., until I see a new plan. But I do have a question on the trees, and I'm going to ask Alyssa. So Alyssa, are there two, and then I'll get to you, Angela. Are there two missing trees So,
There are. So the first question was only one cedar was proposed for removal. I saw two on site, so I just wanted clarification and wanted the board to realize that if those came out, it looked like just more screening trees were going back in. There are two outstanding trees, cedars required on the, I guess we'll call it the original order of conditions at this point, the one from way back when the deck should have been taken care of. Those
so that
were
makes
proposed.
4.
Right.
Makes 4 total. Big, real, not, we won't call them fake, but not skinny. So we need 4 real cedars to be replaced.
Correct.
Correct.
Yeah, that. So when Angela, when you guys all, this isn't quite as big a team as was out at the house when I went out to look at this property, but it's almost as big. So when I go back, or when you come back, when your plan comes back, it'll have 4 mature cedars somewhere.
Yes.
A little grove somewhere.
Yes.
When you say mature, I would
Well,
like
I
to
mean,
say that, yeah, you
full
mean
size.
not cultivars.
Not cultivars.
Correct.
Okay.
That's all.
You're all set, Betsy? So, I have no further comments to what anybody else has said, other than I can hardly wait for the revised plan. So, do we have anything in the chat room?
Nothing in the public chat, Mr. Chairman. I just want to clarify something. Angela, those are in addition with the trees that you're currently showing. So I know you're showing
The 2 trees.
Yeah,
those
you and I
miss-
just talked about
those
the
are
4.
missing. Mhm.
Yeah. Because the 4 red cedars you're proposing are in the area of the Rosa, no.
Mhm.
The area of the
Correct. They're where the existing ones are and where the Rosa rugosa is. And
Okay.
so we need to add 2 more towards the water where they were supposed to be planted previously.
The 2 or 4, Alyssa.
So the two from way back when the deck was supposed to be reduced, were called to be planted in the mitigation area. So that's why Angela's saying they're going to go back sort of in that existing strip
Okay.
on the northern part of the property. And then
Yep.
I believe we're looking for a replacement too for the 2 being removed in part of those true species.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Mr. Hassett, do you have do you have a date you would like to continue this to?
Yeah, please, if we continue to your next available meeting, and we appreciate all the comments, we'll get plans back as soon as we can.
Okay, let me see real quick. Next available. Ouch, I just looked at the 5th. Oh. It's not going to be the 5th. How about the 12th? The
June
12th of June?
That'd be great.
Okay, so all of the information is required to be in a week in advance. So we'd like all the information in by the 5th of June for the 12th hearing date.
The June 5th.
Okay, excellent.
You'll do that.
Okay, at the request of the applicant, I'll make a motion to continue this to June 12th.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to continue this to June 12th. If there's no discussion and I hear none, I'll call for the vote. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Bird, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Ron?
Fiscal aye.
Steve?
Patton, aye.
This hearing has been continued until June 12th. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
I think everyone's staying on for the next one.
I was going to say, is everybody staying on for the next one, or am I
Yes.
moving someone? Okay,
And
thank
for our
you.
team for the next one.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, are we ready? The next hearing. Carden Realty Trust, 87 Santuit Road, North Falmouth, Mass. Permission to construct an addition, remove part of an existing deck, and conduct invasive species management and restoration. And who do we have to present?
Okay,
Mr.
Jeff Hassett
Chairman.
here again.
Jeff Hassett, Morse Engineering, Angela Tanner, and Dylan Lance from Crawford Land Management, and Mr. Paul Gallagher, he is the builder.
Okay. Well, you're on for your
All right, so
presentation.
this property, 87 Santuit Road, is 3 houses down. Same project team. I think the project's a little simpler though.
Yes. I'm sorry.
So sharing my screen, this property is developed with a single family home here. It currently has a paved driveway. The resource areas are similar. They have coastal beach, a man-made coastal bank with the 50-foot zone A and the 100-foot zone B. And the entire property is within a velocity zone elevation 19 as well. So the proposed work is really 3 items to the project. A sunroom addition here is located entirely within the footprint of an existing deck. And this triangular portion of the deck will be eliminated. The second part of the project is to redo the driveway. Currently it's a impervious paved driveway, and that will be slightly reconfigured. It's generally the same. It's a little bit different here and there. But the big difference is that it'll be pavers, and so it'll be pervious, and it's slightly smaller. So we call that out as pavers, and we have a construction detail for that as well. And then thirdly is supplemental plantings and invasive removal in this area, which I will pass it off to Angela to describe that. And as far as the staff comments, we did not provide a mitigation table, although we can. The reason we didn't is that the addition is within the footprint of the deck, and the driveway is getting a little bit smaller. And housekeeping items will label this area as a dune, and on the mitigation plan, we'll call out that corner of the deck is being removed, and also replace. We're calling out New Jersey T, and we'll pick a more appropriate plan for that area. So, Angela, did you want to speak to the mitigation plan?
Yes, Angela Tanner from Crawford Land Management for the record. And we don't have a mitigation plan because our understanding was that there's not a change in the total proposed coverage. So what we're asking for is to do a little bit of planting and restoration work within the existing areas around the driveway. There are a lot of Japanese black pine. We want to remove those, replace them with cedars and bayberry, other shrubs. The ground cover that's in there, the creeping juniper, is going to stay. I think there was a staff comment wanting to know what we would be removing as invasive species. That note on the plan is really a general note so that when we go in there and remove the black pines and we are planting and maintaining that area for the next 3 years, we want to be able to remove anything else that is coming in there that, you know, would be invasive. So there's not anything specific that we're planning on removing. It's more of a maintenance note. And then there's some trees that are really close to the house and deck area that are proposed to come out and to be replaced with, I think it was amelanchiers. Yep, amelanchiers. And then also above and below the revetment, we wanted to add a few supplemental shrubs and beach grass just in some of the bare areas there. The New Jersey T is labeled to go in between the garage and the driveway. If that's a problem species for you, we can certainly find something else that the client will like.
Okay.
I think that's everything.
Anything further from your team?
If you have anything to add, Dylan, feel free.
Okay. Jen, do you have something to comment on?
Yes, Angela, I think it was just a little vague on how much was coming out, what was going back. Is there any way you could quantify like the square footage or something of all this black pine that you're taking out and then tell us how many species are growing back?
Yeah, we can
Um,
try to clarify that
Yeah,
better.
I mean,
It
we
was hard
just,
to see exactly how many because they're all growing
Yeah, I know.
and they're covered by sand. So we can try to get a little bit more information for you to quantify it.
Okay. And so you're not using the New Jersey tea in the dune system itself. It's just more of a foundation plant.
It's an irregular planting bed just between the garage and driveway.
Okay, well, we'll talk about that, we didn't want to see it in the dune area, but if
No.
it's gonna be like that foundation planting kind of planting bed area, we may be able to allow that. But we just need, I think, a little bit more detail on the restoration area. We've had a couple of dune restoration projects not come out all that great, so we're just kind of being cautious in these dune areas. So I think just with a little bit more detail, especially your invasive removal and restoration efforts, we can support this. We just need a little bit more information, that's all.
Okay.
All right, Alyssa, do you have anything?
Nothing else to add at this time. Thank you.
Maybe you could unmute whatever you do to your
Stop
screen.
sharing.
There we
Thank
go. Okay, so commissioner comments. I'll start with Steve.
Okay, I like the plan and it's indeed simpler. Jen, do you need a revised plan?
We need more detail from Crawford Land Management. I think the plan is fine, but we'd like to see square footages and things like that so that we know. And I know, Angela, it's going to be kind of tough because they all are growing into each other, but give us the best you can so we can look at what you're putting back, what we feel the coverage will be. I mean, there's a lot of movement in this area, and we just want to make sure that when you're replacing the vegetation in this little vegetated dune that it stays.
That there's enough. Is that
There's
what
enough.
you're worried about? Okay.
Yeah.
Is that something that we can work out administratively without holding up the rest of the project, or is that something that needs to be part of the?
I would like to see it under a revision. But I mean, we could go to the same June 12th date.
Yeah, I think it sounds to me like this is fairly straightforward. If you just clean up things after we've commented on them, and we ought to be able to hear it and close it. I mean, there's always a chance somebody will find something, but that's generally the way it goes. So
If I could continue now.
Yeah, but let's hear from everybody first, since we're on that track.
I think Steve, Mr. Chairman, Steve, did you have any additional comments?
Yeah, I was just getting started. Thank you.
Okay.
The reason I asked the question was that I am comfortable with the plan. And thought we could move forward and you could deal with it administratively. If that's not what you want to do, that's fine with me. But other than that, I have no other comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Steve.
Okay, Betsy, do you have anything to add to this?
No, I'd like to see a half a page of narrative with some like percentages in it as best as you can.
Okay.
There was no narrative at all. So when I got out there, there wasn't a narrative about your part, Angela. So when I got out there, it was like, well, I see what Jeff presented. That was pretty straightforward. And I'm like, oh, this is interesting. Look at this planning plan. What does it relate to? So.
Okay, got it. More clarification coming your way.
We actually do read the the narratives.
You have to remember Betsy was a school teacher, and school teachers, you basic rule of thumb is if you introduce a new subject, you never assume anybody knows anything about it. I used to tell my history students, so you mentioned George Washington. Yeah, you assume everybody knows who he is. He was first president. He chopped down cherry trees and things like that. But if you don't introduce him, you're assuming that people know who the hell he is. And I used to grade my students down to a C- for one of those mistakes. Anyway, any other, let's see, we have Steve.
I don't want to give Angela a C-. I thought it was a nice plan.
Yeah, right.
It's like, ouch, Courtney, I wouldn't want you as a professor.
Oh, yeah. I'm not handing out any grades tonight. So, Kevin,
God.
do you have any
Yeah,
comments?
I couldn't top that. I will just take a pass. Thank you.
Okay, Ron.
Yeah, I have no comments, and I'm certainly glad you weren't my teacher.
Yeah, I know. I used to have notebook checks, and if the kids didn't put the 3-ring binders reinforcement in and all the papers fell out, they'd flunk. Anyway, on that
set.
note, are we going for a continuance, or we're going to close it with revisions?
No, I think a continuance, at least it would make staff feel a little bit better.
All right. So, what date do we want to do this?
We want to
The
do it
12th.
June 12th, so they only have
June
to come back
12th.
and see
Okay,
it.
I'm
see
just
us once
confirming
this
for the
summer.
record. Okay.
Angela, does that give you enough time?
Yes.
Okay.
Angela
Okay.
could probably write this right now,
Right.
I'm not sure about that, but yeah, we can get it to you.
close to now.
With
All right.
So
So,
at the
so do we
request of
have?
the applicant, I'll make a motion to continue this to June 12th.
And okay, we do just so we don't get out of step here. Are there any comments in the chat function or anybody wanting to speak?
Nothing in the public chat, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so
I'll second
we
the
have a
motion.
motion. We have a motion and a second to continue this hearing until the 12th. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Bird, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, I.
Jamie. I'm sorry, he isn't here. Ron
Driscoll, aye.
and Steve.
No.
Meeting is continued, or the hearing is continued till June 12th. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Moving on. The Carden, that's with a C. Carden Realty Trust,
We
87.
just did that.
We just did that one, Courtney.
Oh, I'm sorry. I
Move
forgot to write continued on there.
It's okay.
That's what you get when you get to be 84.
It's okay, Court.
All right, so continued request for hearings under a notice of intent. Town of Falmouth Marine and Environmental Services Department, Eel River Estuary, East Falmouth, Mass. For permission to conduct continued aquaculture at 3 previously approved sites.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we're still waiting for a DEP, so I'm requesting we continue this until June 5th.
Make a
All right,
motion
do
to
we have
continue to June 5th.
Oh, and a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay, we have 2 seconds. So we have any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Bird, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, I.
Ron?
Driscoll, aye.
And Steve?
Aye.
Motion carried. This hearing is continued until the 5th, correct?
Correct.
Okay, June 5th. Okay, next, the next one from Nutter, McLennan, and Fish has been continued. So we'll go on to continued requests for a hearing under an enforcement order. Falmouth Yacht Club, 0 Clinton Ave, map parcel 46B 0202000H, Falmouth, Mass. Unpermitted placement of filter fabric and trap rock over the existing riprap.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we just heard this notice of intent. My
Yes.
recommendation and request is to continue this matter until August 28th so the yacht club has time to finish their the repair work.
Okay, so
As
this
I,
was
s- yeah, as I said.
essentially
in
is
the
a way
notice-
of signing off on the approved, yeah, okay.
Correct. As I said at the hearing for this project, I would not be comfortable closing the enforcement order until the work is completed.
Are there any comments by the board?
But
All right,
I'll make a
hearing that,
motion
I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to continue to August 28th.
Driscoll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to continue this to August 28th. Hearing no discussion, I'll call for the vote. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Bird, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Ron,
Driscoll, aye.
Steve.
And,
Okay, so this hearing is continued till what, the 28th of August?
Correct.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. All right, next. We have continued requests for a hearing on, I'm sorry, we just did that. We have votes, orders of conditions. And I assume they're all the same applicant. It was closed last week, so I believe everybody's on the forum. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll start with Mike LaCava Repurposed Properties, 0 LLC, 0 Betts Way, Lot 1, map parcel 3203002001.
So on this one, does the board, we had made a suggestion because there were no trees on the plan. Does the board want the trees surveyed in that zone A? That first like 10 or so feet in that zone A, so we know where these trees are. So once the properties are sold, that we kind of have an itemization of the trees in that zone A.
I think that would be prudent.
Okay. Also, I know, Bets, that we're going out
no.
there, we're going to be
No, I have
saving.
something on that.
Oh,
I think we should, at this point, we should probably also delineate that area. Delineate the area between zone A and zone B.
what
On
do you-
all of the, are you talking, I would assume that would be the same question for every one of these.
No, hang on one chord. Betsy, I'm not following you. What do you mean delineate all
So
the trees?
normally, no, not delineate all the trees, but so delineate the trees in the first 10 feet of zone A.
You want a swath of 10 feet at the end of zone A where zone B begins.
Correct. That trees will be
Yes.
delineated there. And then I'm also suggesting that a fence be erected at that between zone A and zone B, like
As like
We
a
do,
reinforced limit of work.
yeah.
Like a
Well,
little,
and also so people don't go and mow into the buffer. It doesn't have to be a high fence, right? It can be a single rail. It's like 15 inches high or something.
yes, okay.
Yeah,
And
do we want, I know, and sometimes we have required concrete bounds as well. Do we want to go that far?
we could say a fence or otherwise demarcate, and then they can come up with something that the staff can approve, like
Yes.
boulders, bounds, whatever.
I mean,
Yeah.
I personally, I think there should be both, bounds. So they have points of reference if it has to be resurveyed or the fence gets knocked down or falls apart, and the fence, you know. You only need 2 or 3 reference points, but just so the surveyors can go in and re-identify exactly where they are.
Okay.
Anything else?
I just want the board to know that I am meeting with the developer on next Thursday because the foundations were marked out in the field with that twine. We kind of know where those foundations are. And Betsy will be meeting out there with the developer to look to see what trees we can save in that B zone for the rights of nature.
By
So
the
he
way,
did reach out to me, did reach out to the staff, and he is willing to go out there and meet with us and see which trees we can save that aren't going to interfere with the construction of the houses or anything like that.
I think when you have that meeting, those foundations should be staked with 10-foot offsets, just as if they were getting ready to dig and pour. Then you know there's no question. Strings and things like that sound a little shaky.
Okay.
But my
Yeah.
understanding was that
And those should be
Those-
surveyed. Because that's what an as-built plan ends
They
up.
are. Survey.
yeah, my understanding is that those might change. So
That's
that
my
would be the
understanding, too.
largest, that's the largest footprint, but they're gonna rearrange a footprint within that.
And I'll probably have to go out, and repeat this exercise again after the amendments, but that's okay. That's my job
I think-
security.
Yeah, I think we just need to be as precise as possible.
Just like calling up if you have a question on a federal grant.
Yep. I am the help desk.
You are the help desk.
I am the help desk. That is an inside joke between Betsy and I. But yes, I understand Betsy and Ron that these may change and that I may be going back out there to look at other trees. But I just wanted the board to be aware that the developer did take those comments, didn't ignore them, and does want to address them.
Well, that's refreshing.
Do we have any, and I've forgotten the plans now, were there any provisions for drainage and all that stuff?
Yes, dry wells.
Okay, yeah, so we're all comfortable with the capacity of those?
Correct.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to issue an order of conditions as discussed.
Patton
Have a
second.
second? Have a second?
Patton second.
Steve,
Okay.
Steve, seconded.
We have
I'm
a
sorry.
motion and a second to accept, issue an order of conditions as discussed. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Bird, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Ron?
Fiscal eye.
Steve?
Patton aye.
We have approved an order of conditions. Next, we have Mike LaCava, Repurpose Properties LLC, 0 Betts Way, Lot 2, map and parcel 3203002002. Jen?
Yes, so in this case, you saw a revised plan on this one. They had pulled back that limit of work to give them that 10-foot clearance like we had requested. So there is a revised plan on this one. Again, trees in that 10-foot A zone. Fence, I'm assuming you're gonna want, Courtney, or Betsy. And then we're going out looking at all the sites, and then they are going to have that 10-foot limit of work clearance.
And bounds.
Yes.
And a few trees identified.
Yep,
B zone.
yeah, in the B zone, yes.
Okay, any, all right, so, commissioner comments, Betsy?
Comments? I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion
Okay.
to issue an order of conditions as discussed.
All right, do we have a second?
Fiscal
Second,
eye.
O'Brien.
Steve Patton is second. Okay, we have a motion and a second to issue an order of, has discussed. Any further comments? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Bird, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
And Ron?
Fiscal eye.
Steve?
Patton aye.
We have motion passed. We have issued a order of conditions on lot 2. All right, next, Mike LaCava, Repurpose Properties LLC, 0 Betts Way, Lot 3, map and parcel 32-03-002-003. Jennifer.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, looking for something. This one is almost entirely outside your jurisdiction. There is some clearing and land subject to coastal storm flowage, but that is it. There are no buffer zone impacts. There's no need to survey the trees because this is the property that goes like this and then up. So it's like the long skinny access point, and then it gets up. So the buffer zone is down over here. The flood zone's here. They're clearing a little bit in the flood zone, and then the house is located outside of that flood zone. So I am not going to recommend doing the tree survey because it's
Has nothing to do
over
with the
100
buffer.
feet from the house.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, any comments from the commission?
No, thank you.
Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to issue an order of conditions as discussed.
Do we have a second?
Second O'Brien.
All right, O'Brien, okay, we have a motion and a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Bird, aye. Kevin,
O'Brien, aye.
Ron,
Driscoll, aye.
Steve.
Patton, aye.
Motion carried. We have issued an order of conditions for Lot 3. Next, Mike LaCava, Repurpose Properties LLC, 0 Betts Way, Lot 4, map and parcel 32-03-002-004. Jen.
Yes. House is located in flood zone only. Well, actually, most of the house is located outside the flood zone. There is some clearing in the flood zone. It is outside the 100-foot buffer to the coastal bank, so it's not even a buffer zone project. They are doing some grading in the flood zone. Kind of like a steep grade off to the side that goes into the cul-de-sac. So my comments are the same as Lot 3. It's basically a flood zone only, clearing in the flood zone only project with some grade changes.
Okay. We have any comments? Any comments from the commissioners?
Yeah, I have a comment. With the grade changes, is it appropriate to put that none of the runoff should go down into the buffer?
Yep. It's actually graded away from the buffer. It's graded, the buffer's down here.
Oh, so it's a grade.
Yep,
graded
buffer's
over
here, the
into
house
other
is here,
vegetated
and the
area.
grades over there, but I will make a condition about stabilizing that grade once it's done.
Would that be an acceptable condition for all of these?
Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah. Any other
Well-
comments from the commissioner?
Most
No.
of them don't have that much of a, this has the biggest grade change.
This one has the biggest grade change. So this one definitely does need some stabilization language in there,
Okay.
which I just added.
I'll make a motion to issue an order of conditions as discussed.
We have a second?
Driscoll,
Patton,
second.
second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to issue an order of conditions as discussed. Any further comments from the commission? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Bird, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Ron?
Driscoll, aye.
Steve?
Patton, aye.
Motion carried. We have issued an order of conditions on Lot 4. Okay, next up on the agenda is amend an order of conditions. Daniel and Nancy Trodden, 20 Cove Street, Falmouth, Mass. Jen?
Yes, this was an amended order of conditions to add some additional parking. And a few stepping stones. And some mitigation.
Okay,
So, yep. Approve, we'll make the appropriate conditions for the mitigation plantings.
okay, so there's nothing here that's earth shaking. Any comments from the commission?
No.
No.
Okay, I need an emotion.
Make a motion to issue an amended order of conditions as discussed.
Patton second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to issue an amended order of conditions to Daniel and Nancy Trodden. Is there any further discussion by the board? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Bird, aye. Kevin?
O'Brien, aye.
Maury? I'm
Not
sorry.
She's not here.
Ron, I'm sorry.
Driscoll, aye.
And Steve?
Patton, aye.
Motion carried. We have issued an amended order of conditions. Is there any other business before this board? The silence is deafening, so I will entertain a motion.
Motion to adjourn. Patton.
And in
Go
a second.
second.
Okay, and I presume there's no discussion.
Gladfelter, aye.
Bird, aye.
O'Brien, aye.
Driscoll, aye.
Patton, aye.
This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.